Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Quotidian podcast where we'll be grinding Destiny every day, son. Well, some days more than others, but every day. In any case, I am joined once again by Grant Beard, also known as the Beard Grizzly, Bennett Fiasco, Jill the Ripper, and of course, I am Grindhead Jim, your host. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Great.
Doing
Good to be here.
Cool. Let's jump right into it, shall we? We have a lot to talk about. Taken King launched since our last episode, and I love it. I think it's. I don't want to tread well-worn territory in terms of feature set changes. That's what we're here to do. But I do want to just kind of get, in just a few words, looking back on the launch versus where you feel now, do you think the wait and the hype was worth it for the changes made to the game?
Largely, yes. Overall, I think it was more well done than something like, the hype that was given to us by, like, House of Wolves or anything like that. This does definitely, change up a lot of the stuff that I would expect. To put it in how my experience has been so far, I was just inside of the raid last night with you and killed Oryx, and that was the only thing I did. But somehow, I'm a 305 running around without even touching the raid. Just saying.
Right. Which proves that some of the most major problems with the game have been pretty much fixed in terms of progression and stagnation of your character for the most part. I feel I'm in a better place relative to TTK at this time than I was with House of Wolves. So from House of Wolves, so let's look. Okay, so Taken King came out September. We're into November. We're hitting 2 months right there. July of this year, after House of Wolves dropped in May, I was not anywhere near as comfortable with the systems and where I was, and I was kind of running out of things to do, or I had to do things that I didn't want to do to progress. Right. The game was forcing me to do certain activities, and I wasn't happy about that. With Taken King, I can kind of do what I want.
Yep.
And get Alice and the girls where they want to be. Bennett, where do you weigh in on this?
I think it's one of those changes that you were talking about where with TTK, it no longer, it doesn't feel like I have to do anything to get where I want to be. I am kind of hitting a weird lull moment, but I think everybody's hit this right between like 290 and 300, where I can't get to that next loot table.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's really, that's just one of those things.
The problem that you run into there, and this is what I've seen anyway, is that you kind of have to have one piece of gear over 300 for the other 300 stuff to drop. And which is weird. Like, it's kind of like that old thing of like, well, we want to play a big club. How do you do that? Well, you have to have a record out. Well, how do you get a record out? Well, you've had to have played a big club before. Like, how the fuck? How do you get into this shit? And Destiny's similar in that respect. But there is a built-in quest or two to get those items, and eventually they will come. My biggest advice to folks is to grind the Court of Oryx to just edge up your gear, and then when the opportunity comes to get into the raid, which is the easiest place to get this kind of gear, do it. Do that. Nightfalls too are huge now. Now they weren't 2 weeks ago.
No.
Right, and I think one of the big things is like you have content like the Court of Oryx where you don't have to be with a fire team, you don't have to schedule a time to do it with people. You can get in there and you'll probably get with others and you just farm that. And that's really the easiest way to do it, because the heroic strikes and stuff like that, they beefed up that difficulty a little. I tried to clear my 5 heroics or whatever, and I was having issues at first, not because I wasn't hitting hard enough, but just because everything else is bumped up more than it was. So they've done a little bit of tweaking that way as far as normalization and adjusting difficulty or HP of the enemies, stuff like that. But I feel like from House of Wolves or even the Dark Below, that it's a different game. It doesn't make you... First of all, like, the way that everything progresses is totally different. I have friends that stopped pretty much after CDB, and they came back and they were just like, I have no idea what's happening right now.
Right.
Like, this doesn't make any sense to me, which is
right.
good. and bad.
Yeah, it tells you how far the game's come.
Right, but it makes it difficult
you know,
to get back in it without a guide. Right.
And the thing is that there is a guide in as much as the quest. Now, would it be a pain in the dick to start the game over from scratch? It sure would. However, would that person have way more material? Like, they would gain back all the progress they felt they'd lost, and then some in terms of material gaining, because of the materials that we were gaining while they were gone are kind of irrelevant now in terms of like the mat gathering that we knew from raids and things like that. So I think the quest system kind of makes up for that, and is kind of an unsung hero in this whole thing, in as much as like you have the ability to go back and get a legendary stranger's rifle, which what. So
or an
I
exotic
think
one
over
if you so choose.
that is correct. So I really do feel that the game, of course, this begs the argument, well, you better test Destiny for a year, better fucking do. I don't really care about that argument, because anything that's live, anything that has a living, breathing base like this, to see the kind of drastic changes we've seen inside of a year on what is supposed to be a 10-year cycle, it shows that this is a living, breathing game, for better or for worse. And this is Bungie's first foray into something like this in all reality. So, of course, there's going to be changes, and I think the changes overall have been good. Being someone who came in during the Dark Below at its arguably its peak, Suze, did you have anything different that you felt was your perspective on where things have progressed?
I think what TTK did and the changes that were made to the game mechanics overall really answered some of the requests that the overall community had. I mean, we asked for a wider weapons variety, we got it. We asked for more customization, we got it. We asked for more challenging encounters, we got it. So it shows to me that they listened and they implemented it, and they implemented it correctly. They didn't rush it. They didn't just try to shove it through. People ask for more expansions, so they put in a system that would enable them to give us expansions for free with the microtransactions. So I think they really are listening, and I was less than thrilled with House of Wolves because I felt like I burned through and I'm not even really a hardcore player, but I felt like I burned through the content within a month and then was bored out of my mind and felt like I was just doing the same thing over and over again. And TTK has not felt like that to me.
And to be fair, if we're being straight, this is being recorded on November 11th of 2015. There's been no confirmation that the microtransactions are paying for DLC. Now, what they are doing, and what Sue/Jill was alluding to, is the fact that they're going to be able to put out more sporadic story missions, quest lines, things like that, but not necessarily full-blown DLC. I want to make sure no one thinks we're alluding to that. Now,
there's actually been, I don't remember who it was that was in a recent interview. I think it might have been someone from Activision talking about the success, where they said that they are currently existing side by side,
right?
Microtransactions and paid DLC. So we haven't gotten any confirmation from the publisher or anybody else that that's what's going to happen for real.
And again, if we're being fair, because again, the fucking internet is the fucking internet is the fucking internet. I get so sick of the fucking internet sometimes. This was never sold to us to pay for DLC. It was sold to us to pay for more smaller stuff. Like, things like the Festival of the Lost and smaller storylines and quest lines and things like that. Like little things along the lines of a Red Bull quest, which, for better or for worse, I mean, I'm having fun with it. It's different.
It gives, like you said, smaller things that are fun, like the new emotes and stuff like that. Smaller things that are fun and enable you to kind of have a little more variety and customization in your characters and what they do without making it a mandatory thing.
Right. Well, as far as what you're paying for, yes. But as far as like what that money is going to fund is more of a smaller, bite-sized content, not just the cosmetic stuff.
Which is great because if they decide to like the road hating quests that they have, for different weapons, where it might be there one week, but it's not there the next week. When they pop in new stuff like that, that's just kind of a random, oh, hey, there's a thing over here that I haven't done yet. What is this? Like, that's the kind of stuff that
but the argument
keeps me coming back.
Right, and the argument needs to be made though that stuff hasn't come out yet, so we don't really know what they're actually going to be doing, which is a bit disconcerting at this point. And that's what brings up the question, and something I've been seeing all over the internet lately. The question being raised: is Destiny dead? I don't think that it is, but at the same time, I can understand why people are asking that question, because it's like, well, there's all this stagnation. Well, in a game like Destiny, where people are playing every single day, what appears to be a day or a week of newsworthy, stuff or content, it appears that nothing's happening. And I don't like that. I don't support that way of thinking, but that is the reality of it at this point with the way perception works, which, as we all know, is 90% of reality. I would say that if Bungie doesn't get off their tookus, Destiny could lose a significant number of fans, but significant number of fans relative to 50 million a day at 3 hours a day, who gives a fuck? I just don't think we're ever going to get to that point unless Bungie really does something stupid where we can honestly call Destiny dead or truncated to the point where it's moving backwards, especially when you have a tweet from Deej earlier today, which was a reply to someone else that said, hey man, lots of games came out this week, lots more games are coming out, in the coming weeks. Please say there's something exciting on the horizon for Destiny fans. And Deej replied with just that, there's something exciting very soon coming to Destiny.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So,
and no, I don't think at all that Destiny is dead, because, and we've discussed this before. When we see baby players, like actual baby players with the low grimoire scores, they're still coming in. I see them every day. So, I mean, there are still people that are purchasing the game and purchasing the gaming systems brand new. So, it's still growing a lot.
And we're going to get, Christmas Guardians and everything else. So
Exactly.
I really feel like and I suppose too, like, think about this. The modus operandi for Bungie as a live gaming developer is still not established, guys. We're still into year 2 by only a few months, and they've changed a lot of how they do things. So we're still learning, they're still learning, and I think it's just way too early to call on something like this, and I think the idea of people trying to call it this early is just preposterous and wanton.
Right. And I feel like part of the thing that they're trying to do to prevent that stagnation is the time gating that we see a lot, or have seen with things like the sleeper simulant. We were looking for it, and Reddit was going nuts. The sub was going nuts. They set up another subreddit specifically for sleeper simulant theory on how to get it. Like, it was going insane. And then, no, actually, Bungo needed to flip a switch. But I think
Bungo, please.
Bungo, please. I think it was disappointing because everybody was looking so far into it that it just didn't hit that, and we kind of did that to ourselves. But I think that's one way that Bungie's trying to prevent that early stagnation. Because if it's all available and it's all just, hey, let's grind this boss or these handful of bosses, let's pop some 3 coins and see if we can get the right stuff to fall. I mean, how fun is that? But you have things that you can work toward and get into an okay place, and then eventually you'll be ready when that happens.
And I think the implementation and introduction of the class-specific items that are drop items and strikes really, it motivates me to want to do strikes more, because I want those specific items, because it's like, hey, that was made just for my character, and they put that in to give me something to look forward to.
Not even that, just the inclusion of the item 3 of coins makes it so that you want to go into strikes and grind a bit more. So the loot and rewards is something that I know that all of us were basically talking about early on, where I may be done a specific set of content. That doesn't necessarily mean that I don't need to go back and help my buddies out with that content again. There's plenty of reason to need to go back to it, and if need be, maybe I pop a 3 of coins, I get lucky, I get an exotic, it rolls a 310, I'm a happy boy.
Right, and that means that that incentive to do these things,
Mm-hmm.
which was sorely lacking before.
Yeah, it's gear that you can use towards the end game. You can buff it up, and you got it. Like you can. It's an end
Getting a dupe
game-ish.
is no longer a fucking chore. Getting a dupe,
Exactly.
you're like, ooh, nice! I already have one I like, and it's at a level I'm comfortable with. I can take this one and use it for something else.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not to mention that what have I been doing for the last week or so pretty often? Oh, right. Prison of Elders.
Right, which you
the
used
first
to
time
hate.
you did that was the week before TTK came out.
Yeah.
You used to hate that shit. And now we're two-manning 32s, 34s, and potentially 35s without a major sweat, and it's fun and it's a challenge. Hell, we went through fucking 2 of the phases on a 30... Was it the 34? Where we're like, oh, hey, they got light switch. Let's use swords and nothing but. Okay. And just to see if we could do it.
I thought the heavy synth, and it was just like, let's do it. This sounds like an excellent idea.
The other weird thing too is that we're in a position right now where, for me at least, from one of the first podcasts that we did, there was zero desire in me to play Crucible still. And now it's like, hey, can we just do the daily quick and then we can just finish the day in Crucible for 3 hours?
Yeah, really. It's not so bad. It's not so bad to do. I'm in the exact same shoes that you were, Bennett. Like, I hated doing PvP. I really just did. I always felt like I was never getting anywhere, but with with the changes and stuff like that, like I actually do enjoy it.
Well, here's my question on that one, because it's one that I've always wanted to ask you guys, because you didn't do it before, and me and Jimmy were pretty much the two that did it all the time. What changes happened that it made you feel like you wanted to do it more?
For me, at least, it was being able to play content that wasn't just a bullet sponge.
It got to a point where you could feel powerful and visceral and relevant.
Right. Exactly.
I think it's whether this is just my opinion on the matter or whether it was actually like a thing. I feel that it's better balanced now. And I feel that it really does rely more on your skill. It's almost like they took some of the ability to cheese out of it.
It's
not
called
that
weapon
people don't,
balancing.
not that people don't still do it, but I feel that it's more balanced, and I feel that I am able to actually compete and contribute against other players. Whereas before, like I said, I just felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. I felt like I was just dead all the time.
Yeah, there's this community-wide thing called Squeakers not using Thorn, and it really did the trick. I hate to say it, I used to defend the weapon, and I still do. I still love Thorn to this day. I think it's one of the best weapons they ever came up with. It's just that particular meta on that particular weapon didn't mix well in what was supposed to be an otherwise balanced Crucible. I think it needs to come back, because the idea of a burn attached to a hand cannon like that, great idea. But ultimately, they made some smart decisions with what weapons came and what didn't. And I think in retrospect, like looking back on it, it wasn't to take certain weapons away so much as it was to force us into exploring the archetypes more.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise you'd be married to hand cannons and wondering why you're not doing as well. Go, oh, you nerfed it. No, it's called balance, dude. And, people still whine about shotguns. And I'd say the same thing. It's like, well, then learn how to fucking shotgun. Or maybe not stand next to me when I have a fucking shotgun in my hand. Maybe try that.
Well,
maybe
shotguns,
try that.
You bring up a very good point. Like, I've never been very good with shotguns because most of the time I'm not a close-in person.
Right.
But I have started to learn because for that specific reason, because there's more opportunity and a better balance to be able to explore those things that were not comfortable for me to do before because I didn't feel like I was very good at it. And now it's much better, I think.
Yeah, and there's a weapon for people like yourself that don't like to be up close but want to do a lot of damage. They're called fusion rifles. Make friends with them.
Yeah.
Especially now. Fusion rifles are more versatile now than they ever fucking were. They used to be a lot more situational than they are, and I think because they don't fit into a very specific idea, people are railing against them for no good reason. I recently got my hands on a Year 2 Split Shifter Pro, and I'm just drooling. thing is amazing. I got up to, what was it, 300 yesterday, Grant? Oh, things rips. And that's what I was using on the ogres last night in the raid. It was just easier. Just ripping the heads off.
Because before it was like, who the fuck even uses fusion rifles, let alone fusion rifles in Crucible? And now you see them all over the place, and it's like, that's actually pretty cool. Like, they actually are viable.
Yeah, you give me a plan C. Give me a plan C in Crucible, and I will just destroy you. Best fusion rifle they ever fucking made, hands down. Sleeper Stimulant, I make the exception, of course. Although I would argue that the Plan C is just a lightweight, versatile weapon that never got its due. I came across somebody wielding a Plan C, and I was in Crucible, and I had a shotgun in my hands. I'd run the other way, piss my pants, come back, call Mom, say, Mom, you got a Plan C, and then I'd die. It's kind of how it went. But, I miss that weapon a lot. Not just for, the OP-ness that it brought. Yeah, that OP-ness.
Oh, penis.
Oh, penis. Oh, penis that it brought. But also the just the challenge that it brought. There are some weapons that were a little bit overpowered, but you knew that if the person couldn't shoot worth a shit, they weren't going to be able to kill you. Kind of like Hammer of Soul is today. I'm just going to throw that out there. Maybe,
oh, God.
I'm just going to say, try shooting them.
So moving on from that point,
moving on
about something that actually takes skill in aiming.
Before we open that can of worms,
the chaperone or anything like that, or the other exotics that they added, because Jimmy just doesn't know how to fucking aim.
I aim pretty well, actually.
So, all right. So what else do we have on board here?
Well, that is the question, though. What's next? Like, what? We have a lot of evidence that we're going to see micro packs of content, whether it's stories or quests or just the time-gated exotics and so forth. We don't know for sure what's going to happen. Pretty sure that the next day or two we're going to hear a lot from Bungie about what the next steps are. But based on what we know, I'm not asking for a wish list. What do you guys think we're going to get? What do you expect at this point based upon what we know?
See, I would love to see some more development with some of the other characters that didn't get a time to shine.
Okay.
In particular, I can think of a couple. One being Petravenge, another being Barracks the Loyal. If we do not see more come out of their story and the parts that they have developed so far, I'm going to be a little mad. And yes, they did have a quest line for them that they gave in TTK, but quite frankly, it didn't totally develop the characters to the point that I would be comfortable in saying these guys are a big point, and here's why. And unless you go back and read the Grimoire cards, you're not going to know that they are that big of a deal to actually be in the game. Grimoire cards.
Grimoire cards.
Yeah, but those quests did serve a purpose. They built the trust from Petra and Varix in you.
I'm not saying they didn't serve a purpose. I'm simply saying that it didn't essentially build up anything for the character itself, aside from let's go do more after the House of Wolves is over and done with, which is a great prologue with it all. But otherwise, it's just Petra sitting in the back going, "Oh, my queen's dead," and Varix going, "Petra's been all mad because the queen's dead." Yes.
I think I can see both sides. I don't think they're finished with. I'm with Grant in that I hope that they're not finished with them yet. I hope that they don't just forget them because that expansion was not as successful as this one.
Right, because without that quest, you are left with the question: what happens to them now? And it answered that question is that they don't know, and that opens things wide open for more storylines. So
yes.
My hope / expectation is that they will have more shorter quest lines like that, where the story is told primarily through dialogue in mission. As a relatively easy thing to code, I would say. Relatively easy thing to do. And just give me, you don't have to give me a 3-10 item every time I do something like that, but give me something that's, a drop relative to my light level. Or something I wouldn't normally get, something cosmetic. I don't give a fuck. Give me something. But give me story, give me something new to shoot at, give me something new in the rotation. I'm happy with that. That would be really great. Obviously there's that possibility for more weapons, more armor, things like that. But I think everything that we're supposed to get is in the table right now. It's a question of how we play the game and how we do it. I don't think it's a question of do we repeat activities. It's a question of how many activities do we have the option of repeating. And I think that's where things are going until a larger expansion actually drops, which I think we'll see probably first quarter next year.
Well, one thing I do like, and that I don't know if this is in the works to get more of, but I hope that they do more of, is for instance, the other day the daily was the paradox thing, and Grant was just like, Sue, log on, I will help you do this, so that you have a chance to do this and experience it and stuff like that. And it was part of Vault of Glass that, I mean, who was the first person in there that discovered this shit? That was just like, I'm just going to fuck off and wander around Vault of Glass for a while and see what I can find. That kind of stuff I think is super cool. And, I logged in as soon as I was actually able to log in with Grant and go do that, because it was something that I had never seen before, even if it was in an area that I previously was not really a fan of.
Right, and it's kind of the same thing with what was that other mission?
Which one are you thinking?
The one with Black Spindle.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the one that we
Oh,
don't want to talk about ever again.
Yeah, and you can see it in some of the stuff in the community where they talk about, okay, hey, was this door open before? Like, should we be exploring this? Did I just pick something up? I mean, now they've got people exploring the content that's already there inside and out.
Mm-hmm. And I think that leaves a lot of room for further development and further stories and different stuff to do.
It does make you wonder if there's more stuff that they have already that isn't opened. But in the same, it kind of makes you think, well, they're showing that there are 50 calcified fragments, and that's one thing that I can shoot for.
Yeah.
Now the next question is, what else is there that I can do to make this game expand itself more? I'm off point here, I guess, but if you get what I mean, like there's
the
a lot of
unknown of what's
potential
next.
for collection. There's a lot of potential for expansion on the old content, and we've kind of said, let's make the raids happen again. I would argue just to say use them again, at least in various ways, like they kind of do with the Crota Soul mission, or for lack of giving away spoilers at this point. Overall, it's like reuse some of those places a bit more in different ways, like you have been, and don't let them rot. Use Prison of Elders for another reason at this point, instead of us going back just to far more strange coins. I would definitely like to see that be used.
It'd be great to have that as a story mission where you've got the doors are open and you got to find certain things and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's plenty of assets in the game. I think there's plenty of things that could be done. The question is, how is it going to be done, and what are we going to be getting? I don't think we have any reason to worry because we got through the last year just fine. And the first few months of this DLC, I mean, we still play every fucking day for the most part. And still manage to have fun, even though we want to rip our heads off sometimes. But that is, the state of playing a game as often as you do. I mean, Destiny's kind of become that live-in girlfriend that just moved in. Like, as of Taken King, she's a live-in now. And you're trying to figure out, okay, will this work long term? Maybe by year 3 we'll put a ring on it. I don't fucking know. I hope
Where's
so.
my damn toothbrush?
Right? Right! Bitch doesn't floss? Like, who wears socks like that? You just put lotion on your feet. Who the fuck puts socks on after the... And that's where we are with Destiny. With lotion on the socks. I'm just saying.
Really? You're going out in that?
Yeah. I guess. Well, in any case, there's a lot of things left unsaid. There's a lot of things left unknown, and that's okay. If I have one thing to say to people out there, it's okay for us not to know. We will know very soon. The game's far from dead. Keep supporting it. Play it as long as it's fun. If it ceases to be fun for you, or you have everything you need, play something else. Even if that's something like Fallout 4, which I guess if you want. I joke it's supposed to be an amazing game. Bennett's playing it and having a great time. But whatever you play it honestly. And Destiny's going to be here. It's not going anywhere. You're not going to miss that much. And rest assured, if you're going to miss it, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
Bennett, Grant, Jill, thank you so much for being here. Love your faces, as always. Glad to get back to doing this. We're going to try and make this more regular, folks. We just don't know with scheduling how often it's going to be. But thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And keep on grinding every day. And that's what a Quotidian does. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yep.